Imagine walking into a store in 1985 and discovering that the soft drink you've loved your entire life has vanished, not discontinued, not renamed, completely reformulated and replaced. That's exactly what happened when Coca-Cola made what many consider the biggest marketing blunder in corporate history. But here's the twist: it wasn't incompetence that led them to this desperate move. It was fear. Fear of a scrappy competitor that had been slowly, methodically eating away at their empire for decades. A rival that didn't just want a piece of the pie. They wanted the whole thing. This is the story of how Pepsi challenged the most iconic brand on the planet and came dangerously close to winning the Cola Wars. The rivalry between Coca-Cola and Pepsi is one of the most legendary battles in business history, but it didn't start as a fair fight. When Pepsi-Cola was founded in 1893 by pharmacist Caleb Bradham in New Bern, North Carolina, Coca-Cola had already been around for 7 years and was rapidly becoming America's favorite soft drink. Coca-Cola had the money, the distribution network, and most importantly, the brand recognition. Pepsi was the underdog from day one, struggling to survive in the shadow of a giant. For decades, Pepsi barely registered as a threat. The company actually went bankrupt twice, once in 1923 and again in 1931 during the Great Depression. Each time it clawed its way back, but it remained a distant second. Coca-Cola executives probably didn't lose much sleep over their struggling competitor. That complacency would prove to be a critical mistake. Everything changed in the 1930s when Pepsi made a bold move that would reshape the battlefield. During the Depression, when every penny mattered to American families, Pepsi began offering 12 ounces of cola for the same nickel that bought you just 6 ounces of Coke. They even created a radio jingle that became famous across America. Pepsi Cola hits the spot, 12 full ounces, that's a lot. It was brilliant positioning. Pepsi couldn't beat Coke on prestige, so they competed on value. The strategy worked. Sales surged and suddenly Pepsi was no longer just surviving, they were thriving. But the real war began in the 1960s when Pepsi hired a new generation of aggressive marketers who understood something crucial. They couldn't win by being a cheaper alternative. They needed to make Pepsi desirable, aspirational, cool. This insight led to one of the most successful rebranding campaigns in advertising history, the Pepsi Generation. Launched in 1963, the Pepsi Generation campaign was revolutionary. Instead of talking about the product, Pepsi sold a lifestyle. They positioned themselves as the choice of young, energetic, forward-thinking Americans who were shaping the future. The message was clear: Coca-Cola was your parents' drink. Pepsi was for the new generation. They featured young people having fun, being active, living life to the fullest. The campaign struck a nerve during a time of massive social change in America. The civil rights movement, the space race, the youth revolution. Pepsi aligned itself with progress and youth culture, while subtly painting Coca-Cola as outdated and traditional. The strategy was devastatingly effective. Between 1960 and 1970, Pepsi's market share grew significantly, especially among younger consumers, but Coca-Cola still dominated overall. The fight was far from over. Then came the knockout punch that nearly ended the war, the Pepsi Challenge. In 1975, Pepsi launched what would become one of the most famous marketing campaigns in history. The concept was deceptively simple. In shopping malls and stores across America, Pepsi set up blind taste tests. Participants would taste 2 unmarked cups of cola and choose which one they preferred. The results were shocking. Time and time again, people chose Pepsi. Even more surprising, many of the people who chose Pepsi in the blind test were regular Coca-Cola drinkers. Pepsi didn't just conduct these tests quietly. They turned them into television commercials, showing real people choosing Pepsi over Coke. The campaign was brutally effective because it attacked Coca-Cola's most fundamental claim that their product simply tasted better. The Pepsi Challenge suggested that Coke's dominance wasn't about superior taste, it was about brand loyalty and nostalgia. Strip away the labels, and people actually preferred Pepsi. The campaign sent shockwaves through Coca-Cola headquarters in Atlanta. For the first time in decades, they were genuinely scared. Internal memos from this period show executives in panic mode. Market research confirmed what the Pepsi Challenge was broadcasting to the world in blind taste tests. Pepsi consistently won. The reason was simple: chemistry. Pepsi was slightly sweeter than Coke, and in small sips, people tended to prefer sweeter drinks. But Coca-Cola's leadership couldn't ignore what was happening. By the early 1980s, Pepsi's market share in supermarkets had nearly caught up to Coke's. In some regions, Pepsi was actually outselling their rival. The pressure on Coca-Cola's executives became unbearable. Their response would go down as one of the most catastrophic decisions in marketing history. New Coke On April 23, 1985, Coca-Cola held a press conference at New York's Lincoln Center to announce that they were changing their formula for the first time in 99 years. They had spent 4 years and $4 million developing and testing a new, sweeter formula designed to beat Pepsi in taste tests. The company was so confident that they completely discontinued the original formula. There would be no choice. New Coke was replacing Coca-Cola. The backlash was immediate and volcanic. Within hours of the announcement, Coca-Cola's hotline was flooded with angry calls. People felt betrayed. Some compared it to trampling on the American flag. Protest groups formed. A man from Seattle founded the Old Cola Drinkers of America and started a class action lawsuit. Fidel Castro called it a sign of American capitalist decadence. On the black market, Old Coke sold for $30 a case. The psychiatrist Coca-Cola hired to listen in on calls compared the anger to grief over losing a family member. The irony was exquisite. Coca-Cola had reformulated their product to beat Pepsi at their own game, and in doing so they had proven Pepsi's entire point. That Coca-Cola's real value wasn't the liquid in the bottle. It was the emotional connection, the nostalgia, the tradition, all the things the Pepsi generation had been attacking for 20 years. Just 79 days later, Coca-Cola admitted defeat. On July 11, 1985, they announced they were bringing back the original formula as Coca-Cola Classic. It was an unprecedented retreat. And yet, somehow, Coca-Cola managed to turn their disaster into a triumph. The return of Coca-Cola Classic sparked celebration. Sales surged. The company received over 31,000 thank you calls. In the end, the new Coke debacle reminded America why they loved Coca-Cola in the first place. Some conspiracy theorists still believe the whole thing was a planned marketing stunt, though everyone involved insists it was a genuine mistake. Either way, by 1986, Coca-Cola Classic had regained its market lead. Pepsi had come within inches of victory, but the crown remained in Atlanta. However, the story doesn't end there. While Pepsi may have lost the Cola War, they won something arguably more valuable: respect and lasting relevance. Today, PepsiCo is actually a larger and more diversified company than the Coca-Cola Company, thanks to its ownership of Frito-Lay, Quaker, Gatorade, and Tropicana. In the soda market, Coca-Cola still leads globally, but Pepsi has carved out an unshakable position as a legitimate alternative, especially among younger consumers. The Pepsi versus Coke rivalry taught the business world lessons that still resonate today. It showed that aggressive challenger brands can reshape entire industries. It proved that emotional connection matters more than product features. It demonstrated that youth marketing and cultural relevance can be as powerful as tradition and heritage. Most importantly, it reminded us that in business, as in life, the fight itself can be more valuable than total victory. So here's my challenge to you: next time you're choosing a drink, pay attention to why you pick what you pick. Is it really about taste, or is it about something deeper? That's the legacy of the Cola Wars. Two companies that didn't just sell beverages, they sold identity. If you enjoyed diving into this fascinating business battle, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next deep dive into the stories behind the brands you think you know. Drop a like if this changed how you see the rivalry, and comment below: are you Team Coke or Team Pepsi? I'll see you in the next one.